All right. I remember to record today. So I can post this for those that might need some help on these later. Um, but if you haven't, go ahead and pull up the assignment for today. I put a few problems on there, just kind of reviewing functions. Okay. So I'll share my screen here in a second, but just want to go ahead and say hi to everybody. Good morning. Turn those cameras on. I got the recording going. I usually go back and try to check and see who all was there, who was awake and, functioning. So let me see those faces and we'll get going here. We got just a few problems to look at. And I told you guys we'd go over them together and make sure that you have everything right before you leave. So kind of a reward for getting up early is that we get this out of the way and get it right. Um, let me share my screen and we'll get going. All right. So I think two of them are matching and two of them are multiple choice. Are there four? I can't remember if I put three or four on there. I think I put four. One, two, three, four. Yep. So two of them are like matching, and then two of them are just multiple choice. Um, the first one is just interpreting a graph. So, I think everybody will be okay on this one, but it's not a bad thing to go back over. We're going to have a functions test for a grade. It's been a while since we've had a test. Probably this upcoming Friday. My guess is we'll have like a catch up work day maybe on Monday when we get back for maybe people that are behind, that get all their NTI stuff done, missing cooldowns, whatnot, maybe some kind of game for those that are caught up. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, I think we have two more lessons to knock out in the unit. Thursday, we'll do some type of review. And then Friday, we're shooting for our unit 4 test. So we can finally move into quadratics in unit 5. I'm excited about that. All right, so this first one, we're just interpreting the graph. Remember, inside the parentheses is your independence on the x-axis, and then what it equals outside is your y, your dependent variable. So the maximum height of this one would be where it's at its tallest, which would be right here. And you're either looking for an output of 16 or an input number inside the parentheses of 4. And you see that on number 3. So that's kind of how this works, making those matches. Can somebody throw in the chat where the minimum height would be, what the 1, 2, or 4? Just throw that into the chat and we'll move forward. Which one is the minimum height? Where's the value of the minimum height? You already got a couple in there. Perfect. All right. Yeah, 1.5 input. Nice, Rylan. That would be number 2. Yes, that is correct. So you're going to make sure that you match this one up with number 2 straight across, because at 1.5, which is here, input, this is where our lowest value is, and that's correct. Where the height stays the same would be no change. So we're looking for a horizontal line, and that happens on the graph right here. But what does the function notation look like? Is it h of 0 equals 7, or is it h of t equals 6 for inputs 7 through 8? And I think the way that I just described it there, and as I'm seeing you guys type in the chat, Riley, yeah, it's 4. So that one would match with the fourth one. So C goes down here because inputs 7 through 8. This kind of matches our piecewise function ideas, right? So we should be familiar with that. 7 to 8 is where it's flat, and the output is 6, which you can see is right. Let's see, output would be halfway between those, which would be right there. So that's 6. And we don't know exactly what the time is. We just know it's between 7 and 8. And so that's why that works. All right. Which by process of elimination means that the starting height was when the time was 0, h of 0, and it was about 7 as an output there. That makes sense. So there's the first one matched up for you. We have A is 4, B is 2, C is, I'm sorry, I said 4. A is 3, my bad. B is 2, C is 4, and D is 1. So when you match those up on your assignment, make sure you got those for correctness. Let's zoom on down to the next one. As we zoom, we'll zoom down. We've got 3 different functions, f, g, and h of x. and we're plugging in the same inputs for all three of them, and I'm just asking you which one gives the largest output. All right. So essentially here, when you have three functions that you're plugging in the same number for, but they're doing different rules for each, I thought, and I don't know, let me know if you guys can see this. I don't want to share my screen. Can you guys see my Desmos graphing calculator? Like Liam or Rylan, give me a thumbs up. Can y'all see it? Is it showing? Okay, okay. Thank you, Rylan. What I did is I took f of x, the second one was g of x, and the third one was h of x. I typed in their rules, okay? 4 times 4x minus 5, 4 times x minus 5, and x divided by 4 minus 5. I took all three of the rules. I put them into Desmos, so I have them graphed, but I wasn't really concerned much about the graph. I hit the gear, and I got like the little table, input-output table, and I went and I plugged in 100, negative 100, and 1/100th. And the reason why I did that was because on the question, let me get that pulled back up. On the question, those were the functions, and these were the three inputs, 100, negative 100, and 1/100th. Those were the three numbers they were asking you about. So it's like, well, I'm just going to plug them all in, and then I can compare and let the technology do all the math for me instead of me, working out on paper 4 times 100 minus 5, 4 times negative 100 minus 5, and 4 times 100th minus 5. Like instead of doing all 9 of those problems, I felt like it was quicker just to type it in. So that's what I did. So when I plugged in 100, I'll pull it up so you guys can see. Here's f of x, 395. G of x gave me 380. And h of x gave me 20. So out of those three outputs, which one was largest? F, G, or h of x? Which one are we picking for that one? Type it in the chat. I'll scroll up again and show you. There's F's output, there's H's, there's G's in the middle, and then H is at the bottom. And the one that had the highest output, Rylan, correct, f of x. So your choice on your assignment, whenever I plugged in 100 for each, f of x, your answer for A should be f of x. All right, so make sure, and I'm trying to write with my finger, and it's not as good as when I have my stylus. But I'll make it work. All right, so f of x gave us the biggest output. It was like 15 bigger than what this one was. All right. Okay, and I think that one, honestly, you could probably do that one in your head. The negative one and the 100th, that one's a little bit trickier. So the graphing will probably be a little bit more handy for those. Because I think the last one, they were really close to being exactly the same. And so that's why I think the technology is helpful here. Okay, so the next one is, all right, let's plug in negative 100 for all of them. Here for x, here for x, here for x. And let's see which one gives us the biggest output. So let's go back to my little graph. I plugged in negative 100 for f of x, got negative 405. For g of x, I got negative 420. And for h of x, I got negative 30. So all of them were negative. So I'm really looking for the one that's closest to 0, right? So what's closer to 0? 405, negative 420, or negative 30? That would be negative 30, right? So our answer there should be h of x, because this is the last one. So h of x gives us the largest output when we plug negative 100 in, right? So for this one, ooh, I like this at the bottom. I can just circle. That'll be better for me. All right, so the first one, A, was f of x. The second one was, let's see, here's the second one. The second one was h of x, and we got one more left to do. So this one was h. I will try my best to draw an H there so you don't get confused. So FH, let's look at the last one. The last one was a little tricky because you had to put in like this. I guess if you put in the decimal, it'd be 0.01, 100th, right? So you could have done that. I think I typed in the actual fraction when I did it. Yeah. So 100th plugged in gives me that. 100th plugged in gives me that. 100th plugged in gives me that. This is the smallest, right? Negative 20-ish or so. This was the toughest one. What is bigger, negative 4.96 or negative 4.9975? Which of those is larger, h of x with this one or the first one, f of x negative 4.96. Yeah, nice, Liam. Negative 4.96 is larger. Barely, barely. That's why that one I think technology is helpful because it's a weird fraction. You get decimals that are close to each other. So f of x, the first one, has the biggest output. Now, so another f for the last one. So let's recap. For that problem, you should have f of x for the first one. When you plugged in 100, it was bigger than all the others. H for the second, and then the last one, we're back to f of x. Poor g of x never got chosen. It was always smaller in the middle. I don't feel too bad for it, though. It's a function. It doesn't have feelings. So let's move on to the last two. This one I think will go really fast. Okay, we got 4 graphs. We match the description to the graph. All right, here we go. We have an empty 20-gallon water tank. And time, it says, is the x-axis. So time is down here, and the amount of gallons is over here. So if it's empty to start, we can rule out graph number 1, right? Graph number 1 starts full. We fill it at a constant rate for 3 minutes until it's halfway full, and then we empty it at a constant rate for 3 minutes. So it fills up, and then it goes down. And the only one that shows that is graph 3. So A should match up with graph 3. It fills up for half the time and then fills back down. And notice that its rate of constant rate is 3 minutes for both. So it's the same length, same slope, just downhill instead of uphill. Get the idea? All right. So somebody type in the chat the match for B. A full gallon water tank is drained for 30 seconds until it's half full, and then afterwards it gets refilled. B would match which of the 3 graphs? Left, 1, 2, or 4. Type in the chat what you think is the appropriate graph. Nice, Lily. Nice. Yes, it's the first one there. It was full. We lose half. We gain half. You guys get the idea. So number 1 graph matches letter B description. All right. 2,000 gallon water tank starts out empty. It's being filled for 5 hours slowly at first, and then it gets faster later. We're looking for a change in slope, and that would be graph number 2, right here. And the reason why it's not graph 4 is because there's a drop, right? It just says that it's being filled and then gets filled faster. So C should match number 2, and then by process of elimination, I think this one was like a dog jumping into the tank, which I thought was an odd description, but yeah, a dog jumps in and splashes around for 10 minutes and apparently knocks out some of the water, which is why we see the decrease. But I would argue that I don't think that water would constantly go out like that. I think it would be more jumpy and up and down, but I'm not going to get particular. Graph 4 does match description D. So D goes with 4. All right. And lastly, let's finish this up. It's Friday. I know you guys are ready to get off here. I can feel it. We have a comparison of graph F and graph G. So let's go down through here and you have to select all that are true. This is not a multiple choice. One answer is right. In fact, many of these are going to get selected because there's a few of them that are true. Let's start with A. Now remember, number inside means that's the x value. So f of 0, when we're comparing f of 0 to g of 0, f of 0 would be right here when the input is 0, and g of 0 would be right here. Now, f of 0 is 0. It's going through the origin. G of 0 appears to be like 13 or 14. So the statement is that f of 0 is bigger than g of 0, and that is false, not true. So don't pick that one. All right? Don't select A as one of your choices. B, it says there are 2 times 2 values when x can be plugged in, and both of these functions will be the same. And so another way to phrase that question or to say that question is there are 2 intersections. You're looking for intersections. Are there 2 intersections for this? Yes, there are. F of x and g of x equal the same, about -2 and some change. And then the same again about 3.1, 3.2, something like that, right? There are two moments when these equations equal each other. So there are two values where they're the same. We want to pick that one. Yes, 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 yes. True, 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 true. All right, C. Is f of -1 bigger or smaller, sorry, smaller, less than g of -1? Well, let me highlight these in red. F of -1, let me track back. When I plugged in -1, it's right here, right? And when I plug in g of -1, it's up here. All right, so f of -1 is like maybe 1, 2. G of -1 is like 11, maybe 12. So is f of -1, which is here, smaller than g of -1? Yes, it is, because it's lower on the graph. It has a lower y value. So we want to circle that one. That's true. True, 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 true. All right, last one, last one. I know. This is the longest Zoom we've had. I've gone 16 minutes. I'm so long-winded today. I'm sorry. And it's a Friday of all days to go long, right? Mr. Catlin, how dare you? F of -3. F -3, right there. And G of 4 right here. Now, this is the only one that's kind of close. See how they're kind of close to their outputs, but F is a little bit higher than G is, output-wise, right? So is F greater than G? Barely, barely, barely. It looks like G's like maybe 6, and then F is probably 8 or 9. 8 or 9 is bigger than 6. Last number line I checked. So we definitely want to circle that one. Like I said at the beginning, you're going to circle a few here, and it's the last three, B, C, and D. And that's a wrap for Mr. Catlin for this week, this crazy, stupid week of snow and NTI. I'm so ready to be back in person, hear you and see you instead of Zooming with a third of you, or maybe a quarter. I don't know. But I've got this one recorded. I'll post it for those that might need help. Be gearing up for a test that has problems that are similar to this upcoming Friday. And I think we're going to be okay. But that's all I got, guys. If you want to log off, and feel free to. Have a great Friday. And we'll see you guys hopefully on Monday. We should get back together on Monday. Peace out. Have a good weekend, guys. See ya.